mayor to recognize certain individuals, certain things that I believe in, and even though I don't, I do love it when they ask me to do things. And I was asked to do this, so yeah, I'm quite honored to be able to do this. From the office of the mayor, proclamation, Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day, June 7, 2025. Whereas Tourette syndrome is an inherited neurological disorder that is characterized by involuntary physical and vocal tics that occur many times a day. And whereas Tourette syndrome is often accompanied by other mental health disorders such as attention deficit and obsessive compulsive disorder, learning disabilities, and anxiety. Whereas Tourette syndrome and persistent tic disorders affect 1 in 50 children. More than 48,880 school-educated children in the state of North Carolina alone are dealing with this syndrome. And although some of these cases are aided by medication, there is no standard treatment, known cure for this disorder. Whereas there is an important need for more professional help with interest and expertise to identify, counsel, and treat people with Tourette syndrome, a disorder that's often misdiagnosed and misunderstood. Whereas positive actions to assist children and families living with Tourette syndrome would result from a broadening of public and professional knowledge and acceptance of Tourette syndrome. And whereas the Tourette Association of America is actively providing services to families, educating medical professionals and teachers, and supporting research to better understand the signs and treatments of TS. Now, therefore, be it resolved on June 7th, 2025 be recognized as Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day in Mebane as a special day to promote understanding, compassion, and acceptance for all our fellow citizens who deserve and need our support to break the stigma that surrounds TS, or Tourette syndrome. This is the second day of June 2025. Ed Hooks, City of Mebane.
And then one more for good measure. Thank you.
You know, this second one is we have some fantastic schools in Mebane, and I'm very proud of all of them. And we try to recognize achievements from people in school children, like the young lady that won 3 state championships in golf, and the Southeast girls basketball team that won 2A state championship. This one is quite honored. I'm honored to be able to do this. Jeff Johnson, he's the head of Bradford Academy, and I think there's a name for it. What do you call it? What's your headmaster? There you go. I'm trying to think of it. Yeah. This is the proclamation recognizing Bradford Academy's achievements. Whereas Bradford Academy, a private school institution located in Mebane, North Carolina, has been providing exceptional education since its foundation in 2008, employing a classical education approach, cultivating excellence among its students. And whereas Bradford Academy earned a distinguished national ranking of 7th in 2024, based on its students' extraordinary academic performance, marking a remarkable achievement for the school still in its early years. And whereas in 2025, Bradford Academy CLT Classic Learning Tool ranked 5th nationally and 1st among schools in North Carolina, highlighting the school's dedication to academic rigor and outstanding achievement. And whereas the school provides a unique educational environment for students from transitional kindergarten to 12th grade, earning acclaim for its personalized, loving academic community built around its mission to foster truth, goodness, and beauty, with wisdom and virtue as its core. And whereas Bradford Academy's success owes much to the collective passion of its educators, its staff, its students, and the unwavering support of a dedicated parent community. Now, therefore, I, as Mayor of the City of Mebane, proudly recognize Bradford Academy for exemplary achievements and valuable contributions to our.
And then I'll have you look really quickly. All right, ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, now for public comments. And do we have any public comments? Yes, we do. Carl Bradley, Mr. Mayor.
Name is Carl Bradley, 4610 Mebane Rogers Road, but mainly I'm known as the mayor of the dog park. I try to maintain it as best we can. And one of the problems we've had for a while was lack of mulch. But I was informed where the water fountain is outside of the dog park, if they could put a water station like over by the splash park, make it so that people can fill jugs and stuff for the dogs. We try to take care of the dogs. It's the only dog park I know of that has toys, and the city put up toy bins when I asked them to. And so that we can collect the toys and put them in there. Some people just take and throw the balls out across the thing and never pick them up, but that's just a side comment. Then the third thing, which is a public safety thing, is right outside of the dog park. We witness it all the time, especially when the soccer people are there. People coming in too fast. I mean, when they're hitting 40 miles an hour inside, once they come past the gate, that is way too fast, squealing around corners and stuff. So what we would like to see, and I'm not alone on this, other people have asked me about it, is a speed bump probably halfway between where the gate comes down and where the road that you turn into, right into for the dog park. If it could be right in that area, it would slow them down enough that I'm always worried about somebody getting hit because a lot of people cross the road right there. And when they're coming down there, somebody might be turning out of a spot or out of one of the side roads. And I don't want anybody to get hit is the main thing. But I have been told that we are one of the best dog parks in the area. Been told that many times.
Mr.
From
Bradley?
people that just happen to pass through and visit. What was your question?
We're talking about the straightaway, right there in the entrance.
Yes, right after you pass the gate, they're hitting it. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
You all have a great night. And if you come to the dog park, pick up your poop.
And who voted? The dogs? Never mind. Thank you, Carl. I forgot to mention, when you come up, state your name and your address, and we do have voted by the council a 3-minute time limit. The second one is Mr. Gary Cooper.
Good evening, council members. My name is Gary Cooper. I don't know, can you hear me or not? Okay. I'm Gary Cooper. I live at 247 McClellan Trail, that's in Mebane. Today I want to talk about job employments. It's not as regard to, it's more of a personal request, I should say. I decided to come down today because I applied for the administrative position for the fire department, and I only have 2 reasons why I might not be considered, and that's because of my education or my experience. I'm Gary Cooper. I am a first-generation master's degree candidate, and I have a bachelor's degree, and the job calls for an associate's degree and 3 years of experience, and I only have 2. My previous position, I was an operations and business lead with a branding agency. And for the past few months, I have been turned down because of my education and my experience. So instead of communicating with the online computer and talking to, trying to get my resume passed through other people, I decided to come down and see you all face to face so you can all see who I am and what I'm capable of. Um, Over the past few months, I've been turned down because my education is too high to qualify for job positions. So I want to come down and let you know that I am a person and I'm qualified to do whatever the job requires of me. And I want to work for the city council, or I should say the city of Mebane, because I was inspired by my friend who's also a city employee for South Carolina. Um, he told me that working with the city and his county government is very beneficial for just not him and the citizens, but just people for the well-being and growth of the city. So I feel like that I am capable and qualified to handle any tasks that come my way. And I just want to let you all know that it has been a struggle, but I am capable and able to handle any task and any job, even if my education is too much or I have little to no experience. So I want to thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Appreciate it. All right, the next one is Mr. Doug Carroll.
Good evening, council members, mayor. Mr. White, I haven't met you yet personally, but welcome to Mebane. And I hope you enjoy your stay here. Mebane was, Tim's the only one that can relate to this from me because we kind of grew up together and we're in the fire department together, volunteer. But Mebane's come a long ways in 40 years. I was one of the first two-paid firemen hired in January of '86. And our fire department budget was $78,000, counting the two paid men. So you know where what it is today, and it's not here to complain. I'm just here, and like I said, Tim can relate to this because when we were volunteer, it was truly volunteer. Okay, and it was something broke. Some of us stayed to try to fix it, so we would have a truck back up and running, so we wouldn't be down a truck. But it blows me away as to how much things cost this day and time. We bought a truck in '87 that cost $68,000. It was a utility truck, and it's now we're talking about buying a tiller for 2.7 million. It just, and my family's been in Mebane, has had connections to Mebane for 96 years. My granddad moved here in '29 and to sell fertilizer because this is where most of his business was. And I'm kind of like Tim. We've been around a while. Bradley's been around a while. We've been around a while. And I'm just concerned that maybe we could not spend as much money to buy a tiller right now, because I know that y'all are in the process of possibly building 2 new fire stations, building a police station, renovating the water and sewer plant. I mean, I just feel like that maybe that money could be better off used. And later on, maybe we are a tiller family around here to have a tiller truck. But right now, I feel like it's something that we need to, maybe that money could be spent well for the taxpayers of Mebane. And it's just not here to badmouth anybody. I'm just here to express my concerns that, and I've looked around, I've called around, and we can buy a 100-foot quint that will pretty much do the same things as them, except it just bends like an 18-wheeler for about $1 million less. So just want to let you know my concern for the city of Mebane, and it's grown over the years, and it's amazing what's happened here. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Is that my pacemaker? All right, that concludes public comments. Moving to consent agenda. We have three on the agenda: the Eno Hall Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution, the proposed council meeting calendar revision to December meeting, and the Animal Shelter and Pet Adoption Center Agreement. Anybody wants to comment about any of those?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second
Can I
to approve.
pause real quick? Did we want to discuss the December meeting?
If you want to. That's why I said, did you, yeah. They're moving it from whatever the first Monday to second Monday.
Okay, that needs to be amended on the packet, right?
It's on the
Is it
consent
on?
agenda.
Okay, sorry. I'm looking at.
All right, we have a motion and a
Okay,
second.
sorry.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda has been thanked. There's been conversations, and I want to comment about the REACT committee and the appointment and the, we have three vacancies and some reappointments for the REACT committee, and that will be on the July 7th, I believe it is, council meeting. There'll be discussions about the context of the committee, where we go forward, whatever, all the ins and outs. So that'll be moved on, got that on, that will be on the agenda on July 7th of 2025. All right, let's move to public hearings. The first one is the ordinance to extend the corporate limits, voluntary contiguous organization, Little Hammer LLC, Mebane Village Towns. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a voluntary contiguous annexation, 10.29 acres on Supper Club Road in Orange County. You previously approved a 69-unit town home development in September of 2024. You accepted the petition for annexation and the certificate of sufficiency of the clerk last month and set this as the night of the public hearing. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends the annexation, but it is a public hearing, so you need to hear from the public if anyone has a comment.
Anybody got questions for Mr. Brown? All right, if not, it is a public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to speak on this matter? But if not,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
we have a motion to close.
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries to close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the council?
I move to adopt an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Mebane, North Carolina to include the 10.29 acres referenced by Mr. Brown.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to our budget ordinance for 25-26 budget and the capital improvement plan for 26 to 30. And Mr. Richard White, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. Tonight, I was presenting highlights of the FY26 manager's recommended budget. And so I'll begin with our economic factors as we did last time I presented the budget. We're looking at inflation. At this point, the consumer price index was 1.9 for the 12 months ending in March of 2025, after increasing 2.3 for the 12 months ending in February of 2025. At this point, we're still monitoring executive orders from the federal government, and the economic impact of tariffs are creating some level of uncertainty. And we're looking at our budgeted property tax, which we anticipate will be up 11.2%, and sales tax down 0.8%. And we contribute that just to consumer confidence spending as we all are looking at the economy and wondering where we're going to be heading next. The overview of the budget is for the general fund expenditures. We're looking at a budget of $37.4 million. Our utility fund expenditures is $14.7 million. Occupancy tax special revenue fund expenditures at $226,000 with total expenditures of $52.3 million. Our general capital reserve fund revenue amount is $1,030,323, and the utility capital reserve fund revenue is at $2.8 million. There is no tax increase recommended with this budget. We're recommended that we maintain our tax rate at the 0.37 per $100 valuation. and we will continue to move the 2 cents of that amount to our general capital reserve fund. Looking at our water and sewer rates, our inside rates, we have proposed to move to $9.15 per 1,000 gallons, and the outside rate at 18.30. Our sewer rates, we're recommending 9.82, and outside, that rate is 19.64. And the water and sewer rates reflect a 10% increase from FY '25, as we have previously planned for through our Stantec study. Our garbage and recycling rate is $8 per month per address, and that rate remains unchanged from FY '25. This budget also includes a cost of living increase of 3% for our employees, which is down from last year. Again, based on inflation, last year the COLA was at 4%. We're able to take advantage of our no increase in our medical insurance for this upcoming fiscal year. We did see a 7% increase for dental and 7.5% increase for our vision coverage. And the retirement rate is at 14.35% for our general employees and 16.08% for law enforcement. And those retirement rates were set by the North Carolina State Treasurer. And as you know, the city joined the retirement system in 2009, and we paid an extra 10% retirement fee, but that fee will go away as of June 30th of 2025. Moving on to the general fund recommended budget. This shows the planned expenditures for FY '26. And I'll just note that the large expense in the general fund is, of course, our salary and wages, which is that second line there, showing the $990,205. And that includes our COLA and our pay adjustments, our merit are included in that line item. Our compensation study implementation is there as well. Under fringe benefits, you'll see that line 110 shows the reduction in our retirement rate. Line 300 shows our reduction in our services and contracts. Last year, we had the comp plan there, but that expense is not there for this upcoming fiscal year. Line 700, capital outlay, reflects the plan to purchase the tiller. And then line 960 shows our transfer of the 2 cents to our capital reserve fund. This shows our expenditures for FY '26. I'll just point out here again that in human resources, that does reflect the 2 positions that I've recommended in the budget. And you'll see in fire below, again, that reflects the tiller purchase as well. In the budget, I did recommend 2 positions, one a human resource analyst and one planning tech. Also, the reclassifications of one information technology specialist to a network services manager and one fire captain to a training to assistant fire chief. And then one vacant position we will eliminate in the accounting position in the finance department. This shows our general fund revenue and other financing sources. As I mentioned earlier, we anticipate our property taxes being up 11%. And you see that in that first line there at $1.9 million. And I'll note at the bottom in line 9,000, we have a success story there, and that we worked very hard for the second fiscal year to reduce the amount of appropriated fund balance. And so we only are appropriating this for this budget $1.4 million. Moving on to the general capital reserve fund. This is our 2 cents. We anticipate in FY '26 collecting $1,030,323. And then combined with what we are anticipating having this year, we have a total of $1.9 million when that transfer is made at the end of the fiscal year. And this is also the 3rd year of our collections for the General Capital Reserve Fund. Looking at Special Revenue Fund occupancy tax. Here are the recommendations for $226,000. This is the first full year of those collections, and so far we received the first 3 quarters for this year, so we have 1 more quarter to collect. And 75% of this money is used for marketing. The other 25% is for other purposes. In our utility fund, these are the expenditures that we anticipate for the upcoming fiscal year. And I'll just point out in line 700 in capital outlay, that number has decreased 76%. And that was a result of rollovers and actually buying less of this in this upcoming fiscal year. We took care of a lot of those capital needs last year in this fund. And in line 801 for the debt service interest, you'll see that's related to the wharf expansion project. Again, expenditures, I'll point out utility maintenance line item showing a reduction of 22%. And again, that's just less capital expenses we are planning to incur in the upcoming fiscal year. And in our utility non-departmental line item, that's up 52%, but that's related to the debt wharf, the wharf at the debt. In the utility fund, there are no positions recommended for FY26. In our utility fund revenues and other financing sources, I'll point to line 5010, our enterprise charges for services. That's our water and sewer rates. That shows a 10% increase, and also projected new customers to bring 11.3 million in for our water and sewer revenue. In our appropriated fund balance in line 9,000, that's reduced again by 50%. So a reduction there of appropriated fund balance in this fund as well. On this chart, I show our water and sewer rate comparison. The city of Mebane is there in the box to the left, and you will see that only Burlington charges less than we do. We provide this just for a reference. Our rates are based on need, not to compare our rates to other communities. And as you know, Mebane doesn't have a flat rate, but this shows that we still are among the lowest in terms of our water and sewer rates with our neighboring communities. This chart just shows the water and sewer rate increases. The inside and outside rates for water and sewer are reflected here. And then moving on to the capital reserve fund and the recommended budget there. This is where we house our system development fees, and you'll note that that's reduced by 23%, but that just reflects the number of projects we anticipate coming online in FY26. This chart shows the fund balance in the capital reserve fund. You'll note that in FY25, that went down from FY24. The drop in fund balance is due to transferring the $7 million to the Wharf Expansion Capital Project Ordinance, but we anticipate that this will definitely increase over time. And that completes the overview of the budget. I'll take any questions. The management team is here to answer any questions you might have as well.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the council?
Couple questions. The $30,000 staff report investigation, are we looking into that? Is that included in this budget at all? I believe there's a proposal to reevaluate staff.
You speaking of staffing study? Yes, there's funding included for the staffing study as well.
That, the planning tech and the HR analyst, I'm not comfortable with in this budget right now. I'm going to need to see far more data, far more supporting information right now. And I'm not saying no forever, but I'm saying no for this budget right now. I think Alamance County Commissioners are a great example. They're a bellwether for us, that we need to start really tightening our belt and really making sure that everything is needed and supporting data is there. KPIs are met, requests are met, and frankly, that we're embracing technology as much as possible here. If we're embracing technology and trying to do as much as we can with the dollars that our citizens are giving us, that's something I can support. But at this time, planning tech, HR analyst, and $30,000 for the staff, my apologies,
Staffing study.
That just doesn't rub me the right way right now. We really need to be hunkering down. And you even said it, there are concerns, there are economic factors, there are tariffs. There's lots of risk in front of us right now. I was talking to someone before a council meeting. That's my job, is to analyze risk, look at risk, understand risk, and there's nothing but risk and questions in front of us. So I don't mind talking about that with council and discussing those items. I really don't. But at this time, I can't support.
I disagree. So my day job is in real estate. I work a lot with the planning department on that side of things. The past couple of years, we've talked about adding this role to the planning department. It's going to free up our staff currently from handling monotonous tasks that they're dealing with now and taking them away from their work. And it's also going to streamline, I think, the end user experience as well for folks that are trying to get a house that they can move into in our community. Right now our staff does a great job with the folks that they have. But I, as a realtor, I feel guilty having to email, our planning director when I know that I could email a technician who could answer this question much quicker, right? Or not much quicker, but quicker and not take away from her day to day or any of the other staff on that. As far as HR as well, B has been running lean for a while, and you know, HR is more than just onboarding and terminations. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I did it for 10 years in a past life. And I think that department, they've been asking for this position for years as well. We've not given it to them for years. It's not a new request by any means. And I think that we're really hamstringing our department by not offering that position. And as far as a staffing study, you know, I would love to see the results of that. I appreciate that we do the third of our staff in terms of compensation every year, but we're not looking at the actual workloads with that. And I think that that's going to really help guide us moving forward, so that, you know, we are being good stewards of the tax dollars that we get. I mean, last month you were talking about having more data. That's what that is giving data to the hours that our staff are working, who's managing what. Are we overburdening folks, or are we, you know, could we ask for more in other ways? But you know, not supporting a measure to find that data out in a neutral way, I think would be a disservice.
It would help me if I mean, since these are the three topics under discussion, if I could have more clarity on exactly what those involve. I know it's been discussed before, but I could benefit from being reminded what the HR role would fill, how senior it is, why it's necessary, same for planning, and then what the staffing study actually involves.
Yes, as Councilman Burkholder mentioned, with the planning tech position, that is one that will relieve our planning reviewers of some of the day-to-day routine kind of work in terms of responding to phone calls and permitting issues that employee can handle that. So it create great efficiency in terms of how those tasks are handled by allowing our planning reviewers more time to review those type of activities.
So that would be that would be the most junior position in the planning department.
Yes, yes.
And what are some examples of you mentioned a couple, but just a little more detail on what are some of the things that they would offload from the rest of the team?
So the breakdowns provided that the technician would spend about 50% of their time reviewing zoning permits for single-family homes, commercial and industrial buildings, fences, accessory structures, signage, and business occupancy. About 20% of the time we spent being the primary responder to general inquiries about zoning requirements, including phone calls, in-office visits, website submissions. About 15% of the time we spent doing routine reporting and development activity by residential subdivision and for non-residential developments. About 10% of the time we spent reviewing exempt easement and minor plats, particularly for recently permitted developments in home communities, and about 5% of other miscellaneous tasks, including assisting the zone enforcement officer with inspections and complaints, following those kinds of things.
So 50% of their time what was the first item?
Dealing with zoning permits for single-family homes, commercial and industrial buildings, fences, accessory structures, et cetera.
Okay. And the people who are currently doing that, they would be freed up to do what?
They'd be our plan reviewers to spend more time actually reviewing the plans and helping move those projects forward towards COs. We have seen the zoning permit numbers increase from FY 24 to 25. They've gone from 609 to 763 in that year. And the zoning permits for single-family homes have gone from 40% in FY 24 to 58% in 25. And we kind of did a phone call study as well to kind of see how much time to spend on the phone. About 9 hours within 1 month of our 2 full-time planners and 1 part-time planner spending just answering questions on the phone with individuals. So all that could be shifted to this planning tech to take more of that off of them so they can spend more time actually reviewing the plans.
I would also just add, it gives a primary point of contact for folks in the field that have those questions. So I'm going to make up a name, but it's like if my builder knows to call John in the planning department, say that's the planning tech, right? He knows, okay, I just need to check in with him and figure out why I hadn't heard back. And, you know, they can navigate something even as silly as like a email miscommunication, but that's not taking away from time. And they also know that they have a primary person instead of kind of bouncing between three, you know?
Our projections on growth and funding, just to keep to acquire the front doors for upgrading our wastewater treatment plant is going to require that we not hold developers up, not hold projects up, because our senior staff are working on issues that could be handled by junior staff. I'm fairly comfortable with the inspection position, but I would like to hear a little more on the, and that, John, and I think that was included in your question on the personnel
It
position.
was, but before we move on to the personnel, can we finish the conversation on planning?
And I just want to add, since the manager is so adamant about this, the staffing study, so I take it based on your experience, you experienced how it is a guide and a tool for growth, how to manage growth. So to me, if you wanting the staffing study and you're asking for 2 positions, but you say the study is going to show if you need more people or less people in the departments, then I'm thinking you hold off on the 2 positions to see what the study says, because the study could say they have enough there or they don't have enough there. And if you're looking at it across the board for all departments, why not wait before you have 2 new positions for that reason? And then you can proceed with staffing study. I don't know how council feels about that, but that's what I'm understanding.
Yes, that would be an option as well. Yes, to move forward on staffing study, which would incorporate those 2 positions as well. Yes.
But like with Sean, he was saying he couldn't support all 3. So my position is, if you take out those 2 positions and you still get the staffing study, but how quickly will you have the staffing study done?
And so my goal would be to have that study done hopefully within 10 months before it gets to the next budget cycle, because I look at it as a tool that would help us with our long-range planning. Because in addition to capital projects, we also have to take care of our staff as well. And in a community growing as fast as Mebane, I think we'd be very intentional about making sure that we're, one, assessing our current capacity to get the work done and to meet the needs of our residents, but also the future planning as well. And so that study will give us that tool to do both of those things.
Okay, so once the budget is approved, if you get approval for the study, you would start the study immediately, so that by the time the next budget cycle comes, we have that document in front of us, because we know what's coming down the line. Whatever, we see a lot of dirt turning in Mebane now, and time is of the essence. So if staff can hold off another year, I understand over the years, they haven't gotten anything and all that stuff. I get it. But to me, it makes sense, if you're gonna study the staff, why you add 2 now? When that study may say, well, you didn't need those 2 or 3 or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, just based on bringing those 2 forward, based on the need I heard from the department directors in terms of what they needed. But again, we're talking 10 months. So I think if needed, we could get through 10 more months. We could do that.
And for clarity again, the consultant has to do this study, department heads cannot do it? Is that, or what is the situation with that?
I think that boils down to the question, what exactly is a staffing study?
Exactly.
So a staffing study is like very much like a capital improvement plan, except it's on the staffing side. It looks at it will look at our existing capacity in terms of our workforce based on the needs of our community, service delivered for our community. But it also was predict what we need for the next 5 to 10 years as well. I think that's critical. Again, with Mebane growing as quickly as it is, it will give us a roadmap, if you will, to figure out what our staffing needs are over the next decade. It's only a guide. It doesn't mean it'll bring recommendations for it, but it doesn't mean council has to actually do everything it says. We can certainly revisit that each year like we do our capital improvement plan. But it basically lays out the roadmap, if you will, for our staffing needs over the next 5 to 10 years.
So how does it do that? Is it looking at other municipalities and how many people they have in certain departments based on their growth rates and populations, and tries to find places where we're out of whack? Or, I mean, how do they actually do that?
So that is part of it, but I want to emphasize that what it really does, number one, is look at our own existing workforce in our community to determine what our needs are based on service delivery needs. That's where it will start, and that's based on the subject matter expert of our department directors, our management team. They'll be critically involved in providing that input and data, working with the consultant to figure out what our current capacity would be and what our needs are for the next 5 to 10 years. But to your point, yes, it would also benchmark Mebane to other communities of similar size, see where we should be. And I can, with the human resource analyst position, in my experience, I've always been told and learned and worked with the ratio that you typically want one HR employee for every 50 employees that we have. We have about 175 employees or so. So that suggests about 3 HR employees. But that staffing study does that kind of thing. It will benchmark and help us figure out exactly, determine what our staffing needs are over the next decade.
And it would also analyze number of phone calls that come into the departments and how long it takes tickets to get closed in public works, and looking for inefficiencies and possible recommendations for how departments could be more efficient with existing staff, or is that not in the scope?
That's exactly, you're right on point. That's exactly what it does as well. And also how we coordinate among departments as well to make sure there's that coordination in terms of service delivery as well among departments. So you mentioned technology. It looks at technology as well, of how can we leverage technology as well. So it may be that we don't need that extra employee. We can use technology in some way, but it will do all those things to help us figure out what our staffing needs might be moving forward.
You've done one of these before?
I have, yes.
Very effective.
It was very effective in that community, and I will say, we kind of reached out, Beatrice and I, looking at firms who do this type of work, and looking at some previous studies. They show the communities they work with, and these studies are done all across the country. They're not uncommon by any means, and our neighbor Burlington has done one. I think Apex has done one, Carrboro has done one. So they're very helpful. And again, it's just one more tool we would have to use as we think about long-term planning for the city of Mebane, to make sure that we are adequately resourcing our staff and our community and providing service delivery, and that it's a measured kind of way. We can avoid some of the swings we've seen in terms of hiring one employee one year, and the next 2 or 3 years we might have 20 employees. It tries to smooth it out a bit, helps us anticipate what our needs might be over the long run.
Is this study one that is for Mebane entirely? And I say that kind of in jest a little bit. A lot of these studies that we get, I guarantee you, if I go down to Greenville and pull a study on the rec facilities down there, it's the same study. They just put in Mebane, several different times. So do you feel like this is a true working document for you?
I do, and we'll certainly make that clear up front with the consultants when they get going, that we want to report this tailored for our community.
And it would include police and fire as well?
Yes, and I will say that when the firms we look at, we'll make sure that they bring along the expertise of police and fire in particular, to make sure the practitioners have that background as well.
Yeah, there are studies out there I read not long ago that if you have a population of 30,000 people, you need 47 policemen. Now, I don't know if that's scientific data, but they were talking about that. But the study I thought was a brainchild of all of us on the council, so that we know exactly what we're doing as far as hiring. I think Sean brought that up. I think the study is by far important. As far as the other positions go, I can't talk a whole lot about HR, but just a question: how many? The number of zoning permits. You may not have that, but how has that increased over the last 5 years? And what exactly does a zoning permit entail?
So the zoning permits that I mentioned in FY24, it went from 609 to 763 in FY25.
That's 20%, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And we are anticipating it to go up dramatically after our wastewater treatment plant
Expansion.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's several years away.
I do know that Ashley is slammed. She's in every meeting, TRC. She's in every meeting that there is from any developers and those kind of things. And I'm involved in some of those, and there is quite a lot of those kind of meetings that go on, and she's there. So, my recommendation is definitely, the planning is quite important.
Mr. White, how many people are in each department? How many is in HR and how many is in planning and zoning now?
There are 2 in HR, and I'll need Ashley's help on your department, the number of employees.
Counting myself, there are 3 full-time employees and we have 1 part-time planner who would have a transition in his job if this full-time planning position is funded.
So 3 full-time and 1 part-time?
Does anyone have interns or intern positions?
HR utilizes interns, but they do basic work like copying, that kind of thing. They're not intimately involved in day-to-day HR activities.
Pretty basic job requirements is what we're looking for right here. Any interns in planning?
I'm not sure an intern in planning could answer phone calls about his earning permit, though.
I would concur with
wouldn't
that
want that.
statement. And I'd also say, I think a citizen calling might find that frustrating as well, but I'll
Fair
let
enough.
Rob speak.
We do expect to have someone similar to an intern start next week with a very specific role in a GIS project that we've been wanting to complete.
But on
Mr.
that
Bradley,
project that's closed-ended, not for the public, so.
Mr. Bradley, with your experience in the fire department, are you familiar with other municipalities doing staffing studies? Do you have any experience with them?
Yeah, I participate in a number of them. And here's how it would go. You determine, there's a set of characteristics for fire department response, for example, which I'm more familiar with, but the same exists for law enforcement. And you pick a target of what the time frame is you want to put a crew onto a particular scene. So they do that analysis along with your staffing to ensure that, and kind of like someone said with Bucky's, we don't plan transportation for Black Friday. So you don't plan fire response for when you have 12 calls at one time during thunderstorm. But your average response would put an engine in this amount of time, or your average response would put an EMS unit on this in this amount of time, or first responders. So you do that analysis, and then you look at the size crews you have, and from that point forward, it's pretty. I won't say simple calculation, but they're pretty direct calculations.
That's the fire rating thing you're talking about.
It
right?
would-
And I guess my point would be, our department heads have done that analysis themselves and have told us through request, to maintain the type service that we want to provide. This is what we've asked for. And I think it's fine to say, we want to double check that and, bring some experts in to do a study and see if they coincide with the department head's responses or the request. I don't think, they're certainly not asking for people just to ask for them. So they're trying to meet a mark. And that's what the study does. You determine what level of service you want to provide. And then it's pretty straightforward from that point forward, how you get there in number of personnel. And then you have the choice of saying, well, maybe we don't want to put a law enforcement officer on the scene in 6 minutes, or we don't want to put a fire truck on the scene in 9 minutes and 30 seconds. We want to do it in 10. So, that's the kind of decisions you make from that point forward.
That's helpful. We haven't talked about the HR position yet.
And so, as was mentioned, HR is a pretty complex organization in terms of all things they cover in terms of recruiting, hiring, onboarding, compensation, benefits, training, performance management, employee relations, compliance, employee engagement, safety and health, planning and strategy are just some of the areas covered in HR. So there's a lot of ground to cover. And as I mentioned before, the ratio I've worked with is 1 HR employee to 50 employees, and that would put us about 3, which would be 1 more additional employee here. But when I came on board, one thing I noticed that our HR policies, and I don't mean to say it's critically, but they go back to 2015. Those need to be updated. Look at our performance management system. There's some change we want to make there as well. Our supervisors need training as well. That training needs to be developed and put forward. And so what this will do is allow the HR director to move up and do more of those higher level type activities like I'm speaking of now and help with the staffing study. And those analysts could do more of the functional kinds of things in terms of processing benefits and employee relations, those kinds of things. Just looking at onboarding, our HR director gave me some numbers, looking at onboarding. In FY21, we onboarded 29 employees. That jumped to 54 in 2022, 61 in 2023, 55 in 2024. And at this point, we have onboarded about 35 employees. Our turnover rate's been somewhat up and down. We're at about maybe, I think, 12% in turnover. So that's hiring employees and onboarding them. But I will say that takes time, and it's still difficult finding employees coming out of COVID. It's tough finding employees, and that takes time to be specific in our recruitment efforts and where we look for employees, to review the applications, vet them, all those kinds of things. But even with OSHA laws, all those things changing around safety, all those issues, we need to stay on top of those kinds of things. And we need the HR director to be focused more on higher level kinds of things as opposed to the day-to-day operations within the department.
Any questions on the HR? I have a couple questions about the numbers. If you can go back, I don't have your slides, but I'm looking at the budget website. If you can go back, maybe it was your second slide with numbers where it had the by department. Yes, here. So it should, and maybe there's a mistake or I'm misunderstanding. For HR, it shows nothing for FY '23 and then 445 for FY '24-25, and then basically 600 for FY '25-26.
So previously, HR was a part of administration as a department, and so in that next fiscal year, it moved out to be its own department.
Okay.
And the number you see as the variance in FY '26 just reflects that additional employee that was requested. That's why the increase is there as well.
And so an additional employee at this junior level, including benefits and all the side things, basically is 150K to the budget.
I think there's more in that line item. Daphne, can you confirm that?
For that position, where's that gonna go? That position would be $101,882,000 for that total cost of that position. That includes benefits and retirement
So
and,
there's another 50K in there somewhere.
yes.
And then planning shows the actual budgeted amount going down, even though we're adding an employee. Can you help me understand that?
That's things like the comp plan not being, the comp plan update not being in that fiscal year. I'll let the director speak on more.
That's correct. And then we also reduced our part-time budget since our current part-time planner handles a number of permits that would move to the full-time position if it's funded. There are probably a few other cuts elsewhere, but those are the big ones. The comp plan not being included in our part-time budget being decreased.
So you can add a planning tech and still drop your expenses by 100,000?
Yeah. I don't know if Daphne has the number for the, so the planning technician would be $82,704, and that's everything, including
That's because
benefits.
comp plan's not in it.
Ashley, do you still have the,
Right.
do
Correct.
you still have the consultant?
We still have funds budgeted for a part-time permit reviewer if it's needed.
But is he every month? Don't you
He
have him for
only,
12 hours? a
yeah, he
month?
only contributes 12 hours monthly, so it's a very limited amount of permits and plats that we send his way.
Does he not do plan review?
No, he has said he does not want to do plan review, so he
Okay.
does not participate in that.
What's the name of that consultant?
It's Tim Smith. He's a former engineer with Summit Design
Okay, so
Engineering.
Tim Smith is the consultant, so that's 5 folks and planning is only.
No,
he's
I wouldn't
only-
say it's 5.
Three full-time, 1 part-time, and Tim as needed?
Mm-hmm.
144 hours at max.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would
so,
not say that's a full
and,
time.
and he's doing the comp plan, right?
No,
He's not.
no.
Who's doing the comp plan?
That's Green Heron Planning,
Oh.
Ben Hitchings.
Okay, so you still have, okay, so you have Green Heron doing, comp plan.
That's a standard contract that any community would have for
I
a comp
got you.
plan.
Okay, and then Tim is a consultant with 144 hours max
For the year.
for the year.
And it's on an as-needed basis. He typically does not meet his 12-hour monthly goal because
So-
we only assign certain permits to
So
him.
If Green Heron is doing the CLP, Comprehensive Land Development Plan, what is Tim consulting for again, if you need?
He assists with permits for single-family homes and plats for single-family homes.
Okay, and then Mr. Ortiz is the part-time code enforcer?
No, he is primarily reviewing permits for fences, accessory structures, signage, a few subdivisions, and all of that would move to the new position. He would no longer do those things.
Okay, so the part-time person will no longer be there, Mr.
He would
Ortiz?
be here during the transition period, and then there are a few projects that we need to get completed in our office that I have funding in this budget for.
Okay, so if he phases out eventually, then where does that leave Tim Smith consulting?
We would evaluate after this year if the full-time position is funded and see if he's still necessary, but we have kept the budget in there for this year.
Can Tim Smith not do some of the stuff that a planning tech would do for another year while Mr. White works on his staffing report?
He can, but he is retired and he sometimes doesn't work for a month if
No,
he goes
Tim.
on a trip. Yeah, so it's not a consistent
Okay,
support to our department.
so what happened? Tim, I mean,
He has been helpful for particular subdivisions. We do not
You
allow
see-
him to review subdivisions that he designed, which is quite a few in Mebane.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that limits what he can review. And then it helps. We tend to get bombarded, as you know, during the summer months and certain times in the spring when home building is popular. And of course, the weather makes it that way. So he's assisting now in many reviews for Cambridge Park, for example.
so not what a planning tech would do.
No, and it's also difficult with him being remote in terms of he doesn't answer the phone. We're having to answer questions for him because he's not available on a regular basis. So it would be of assistance to have a consistent person available for that role.
Okay, thank you.
And how much was the comp plan? What was the budget for that?
The purchase order was for just over $180,000. Most of that has been expended. We, of course, will have the drafting and adoption process that proceeds into this fiscal year, but that purchase order already exists and will be rolled over.
That's the reason for the drop. That's a 180,000 drop. Yep, that explains everything right there. I would be interested and I would support Ms. Hadley's idea moving forward, a $30,000 staffing study and holding off on the planning tech and HR analyst.
And so I'm not certain, we put in 75,000, that's where the 30 is from, but we put in a estimate of 75. And that's just, we don't know for sure, but that's what we just put in as a placeholder.
Well, I think we're missing the boat on the planning. We are getting ready to start seeing some expenditures on our wastewater treatment plant, even though it's not open. And our plans was that new growth was going to pay for our debt with new permits, new permits. And if that is the case, and we're starting to have it this year, some expenses, we need to look real hard at improving our planning department to keep up with those kind of things. Because that's going to add 25% or more, I would say, to the permits. So
I'm
I'm supportive of the planning study. I'm leaning in the direction of supporting hiring in the planning department. I'm going to be more cautious in HR. That's just my current perspective.
digging in my heels on all of it, on keeping it where our tax rate is not changing this year. We are looking at positions that have been asked for as long as I've been on council, which is not as long as the rest of you, but this is my third round of budget sessions. And this HR position and the planning tech position has been included each time. Neither of those are new. And I still support the staffing study as well.
all right, any other comments from the council yet? Okay, it is a public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to speak? Speak now. Who are you? Where do you live?
Tom Boney with the Alamance News, 114 West Elm Street in Graham. I wondered if the manager might return just a minute. I'm not sure which slide it was, but the one that has fund balance in the general fund balance appropriated. Yeah, I'm not sure that you read the right line when you were in that section, and that's my question is how much of the fund balance is actually being appropriated and what's the track record on actually using it? Obviously you weren't here, but in terms of at least historically, a lot of cities have used that as kind of cushion, I'll use that word, and then have not actually drawn down any from the fund balance in real life.
So yes, our proposed net line is 1.4 million. If I'm looking at it right, leave the glasses on, I guess. In that column is what was proposed.
All right, I'm sorry, I read the line above it for a different 1.4. I see what you're saying.
And so my understanding is the trend has been, we've used more of that in the past. And we've been trying to be more intentional this go around to use less of it moving forward.
But has the city actually used any of the fund balance appropriated?
I'll defer to our finance director.
What are we putting back in the budget this year?
No.
So we haven't used it. I think when Mr. White is saying use it, he means use it as appropriated fund balance to balance the budget. But we have not, in the last 4 years I've been here, we have not actually used fund balance.
Drawn it down.
Right, exactly.
But I think it's important to note with that question, at your February budget meeting, we talked about a big factor, and that reason of not drawing it down was purchase orders and carry forward funds that were not utilized by June 30th. So even though June 30th is the stop date on an audit or CAFR, Capital Comprehensive Financial Report, that's something to consider as well too. And our annual fund balance appropriation has been until this year, well, till the last couple of years, has been increasing. Mid-year appropriations had been increasing, and also the amount of purchase orders and carry forward funds that have to carry forward to the next year had been increasing as well too.
But those are areas that we're working on reducing moving
Yes.
forward to do less of that.
I recall one year where we actually had a negative impact on the fund balance in terms of appropriated, and I think it was one of those years where we utilized for some, may have been Lotus or one of the companies, but at any rate, I can only remember one year where we've actually ended up using more fund balance than we put back in.
But that's rare.
Yeah.
That was a good question, Tom. Thank you. Anybody else?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, is there any further discussion?
No.
I make a motion to approve the budget as outlined minus the HR hiring role in order to do the staffing study that I have now been convinced is going to be very valuable from a metrics perspective for the future. And also the needs in the planning department. I recognize there are significant needs in HR as well, but given the needs of the time, need to be careful with just risk and uncertainty, I think it's just wise to be a little more conservative in that regard.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I think in terms of discussion, that's a fair compromise. I think if necessary, we maybe can put off the rewriting of the standard operating guidelines or the policies for a while until the study's done. So I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, we'll take a roll. Councilman Ewing,
Nay.
Councilman White,
Yay.
Councilman Bradley,
Yay.
Councilwoman Hadley.
Nay. I was thinking both of the positions be taken out and just support the study.
Okay, all
But
right.
that's what I'm saying.
You're not voting, okay.
Right, and make the decision after the study. That's my
Councilwoman
position.
Burkholder,
Nay.
hmm,
I was a nay.
nay,
Motion failed.
what?
Motion did not pass.
Right,
For expediency, I think we should probably take these 3 items out and vote for them separately. And is that okay? And just to move things along.
Brown,
That would be appropriate if that's the way the council wants to approach it.
we have a motion for
I motion to approve the budget, at this time, and we'll have additional discussion, minus the staffing study, minus the HR position and the planning tech. To discuss immediately thereafter, these three items.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
I move to approve the staffing study.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
I make a motion to approve the planning hiring, hiring in the planning department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
It passes. All right, 3-2. All right, thank you.
We got to still vote on the personnel position.
Oh, yeah, who's bringing that up?
I'll make a motion that we pass the HR position as proposed.
We have a motion to, say that again?
Pass the HR position as proposed in the budget.
You're in favor of that, okay.
I am
We have a second?
the only one.
All right, motion dies. Not a second.
So we passed Jonathan's original motion.
Yeah. That's what I was like, what are we doing? Went around our elbow. Okay, all right.
Right there.
Have we voted on a budget?
Are we done?
Oh, we're done. All right.
Good
Yeah,
question.
yes, you voted on the budget, you adopted it, and then you made 2 additions to the budget by those separate motions and did not make the 3rd addition.
Yeah, I guess to be clear, that included, Mr. Brown, the fee schedule, the position classification pay plan, and capital improvement plan.
All right, let's move on to the,
Let's amend the motion to include those 3 items, please. Thank you.
I motion to approve the fee schedule fiscal year 25-26. I motion to approve the position of classification of and pay plan fiscal year 25-26 and the capital improvement plan 26-30.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, let's move on to our annexation agreement, 1130 West Holt Street. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a situation where the property is served by water and sewer, but it is outside our general services area. And these go through Ms. Owenby's department and are vetted by her department and the remaining departmental staffs. And staff recommendation is that that the city, pursuant to its earlier plans for properties outside our service district, that we simply do an annexation agreement giving us the ability to annex this property in the future when other services, general services, are extended to that area. It's approximately 4 blocks outside of the general service area. And the property, if they access the water and sewer, which we believe they will, for any city utilities, they will be paying double rates during that time until they are annexed, but of course will not pay city taxes. This is a little different in that the property does have water and sewer. Typically, there is an absence of one or the other when we bring this type request to you, but that's the staff's recommendation.
Let me make sure I'm clear that should the city services be available to this property, then the voluntary annexation takes effect, and it's not forced annexation.
That is correct. The property owner has signed the appropriate petition for annexation and has agreed to the terms that you just articulated.
I move the city accept the petition for annexation and the annexation agreement for property at 1130 West Holt Street, but defer annexation until the future per the city's policy and upon recommendation to sign the annexation agreement. I further move the city allow access to city utilities services per the voluntary annexation agreement, with the understanding that should these services be available that are not available now, then the voluntary annexation would take effect.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any dissension? That motion carries. Planning board appointments, Ms. Omby.
Good evening. We have 3 openings on the planning board. This is the annual appointment process, terms in June 30th. These 3 openings represent city positions. 2 of the members are seeking reappointment. That's Judy Taylor, our current planning board chair, and Ed Tilaskis. 1 member is not seeking reappointment, and therefore we have a vacancy. We did receive 2 applications, one being from a community member who lives in the city limits in the Orange County part of Mebane, and the other in the Alamance County part of Mebane. Kurt Pearson did not seek reappointment.
All right.
I move to appoint Dalton Mack to the planning board. And Judy Taylor and Ed Teleskis. My apologies.
I'll second.
Did you second it?
I did.
Is Mac the one in Orange County?
No.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second for those 3 candidates. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, planning board appointments. All right, planning board extraterritorial jurisdiction recommendation.
We also have an annual appointment to one of the ETJ seats on the planning board. This is in the Alamance County part of the ETJ. You all make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and they will make final decision on the appointment. David Scott is the current member in the seat. He is seeking reappointment. We also received 1 other application from Mr. Charles Lopez.
I move we recommend David Scott to the county commissioners for the reappointment to the planning board.
Second.
We have a motion, a second for Mr. Scott. Any further discussion?
That's a recommendation to the
Recommendation to the county, yeah. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, yes, sir.
Question though, is Mr. Lopez eligible to see an Alamance County resident?
Yes, he lives in the Summer Haven subdivision off of 119. I believe he previously lived in Orange County, but he now, yeah.
All right, that brings the end of our meeting. Any further discussion? Does anything need to be brought up by the council? Katie? Are you happy? Never mind. All right, meeting's adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry, we got announcements. Y'all do a good job, so I can't see. Remember, there they are. Y'all can see them. City office will be closed Thursday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth, and Friday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. As I said before, if you're bored in Mebane, you need to go to, you got a lot going on, particularly downtown.
And my compliments to staff on the downtown decorations for Memorial Day, the refurbished Christmas lights with the red, white, and blue, and the new American flag signs look great. I was proud of it.
And thank y'all for the budget.
Yeah, all the great work on the
Very,
budget.
very difficult. And we appreciate the staff and all the departments that did the thing. If not, that's it. Thank y'all.
What's that? Not even 7:30. That's pretty good.
Good, look at that. I'll stay for another.
Oh, I called 7:30.
Did you? Thank you, everybody. Y'all are
7:15.
pros.
Yeah.
Y'all are pros. Mayor, I'm still learning. To get that one resolution.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy.
Monique?